Hi there, this is Rosemary, and this is called The Lightwalker's Path. I'm your guide to all things enlightened conversations and inspirational guests, and people like today's guest, Stephen Ferrara. And he is a man who has a new paradigm for how we view death and loss. He has a book that provides a journey that can give you some assistance in navigating your own pain, as he has gone through a lot of it in his own life. And he has gone through decades of spiritual training and consciousness research. So I'm really excited to talk to you, Stephen. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. Very good, Rosemary. I look forward to speaking with you
Great,
as well.
great. I know that you've been through a lot in your life, and I know that all of us go through these terrible moments of fear and loss. And it's part of the human experience when we lose people we love, but it's never easy. So I want you to speak on some of the lessons that you've learned that you've been able to bring forth through your own journey of loss.
Yeah, yeah. Well, my loss, my first loss was my son
Mm,
over 20 years ago. He was 23 years old.
mm,
Christopher was, probably like most sons, he was my absolute best buddy. We,
mm,
could complete each other's sentences. He was in business with me. We did everything together. And just one evening in a freak car accident, he died. And needless to say, that threw my life completely upside down. I have a wife and two daughters, so I could not necessarily just completely give up. Although I can tell you there were many times
mm,
I thought about that, but thank God for my
sure.
daughters and my wife.
Mm,
And what I did, I was always a journaler because, as you mentioned, I've been on a
mm,
spiritual path, very fortunate since I'm a teenager. I took
mm,
TM. My dad was a
uh,
spiritual teacher or seeker, I should say. And so I was always very interested, and it's carried out throughout my entire life. So even with that as such a strong foundation, though, when something like this happens where your son dies, you begin to
Can
question
imagine.
everything.
Of course.
Nothing makes sense. I was angry at the
Mm,
universe. I was angry at God. I was angry at anybody and anybody I could be. There was no one to blame necessarily, but I, blame the
yes,
universe and
of
God. There
course.
had to have been a mistake. There was, so all of my
Mm,
learnings and understandings really, got questioned.
mhm.
But I was a journaler and I continued journaling on a daily basis, literally every single day now for the last 20
Wow.
years. And that's actually where the book emerged from. I never intended to write a book. This was therapeutic exercise for me to journal. But then when I finally began to look back at them, just only a few years ago, I sold my business and I had some time and I began to see the life lessons, as you're asking about,
Mhm.
that became very clear to me. I never really thought of them very specifically because I was living my life as I was living it and as I
Sure.
was growing and as I was learning. But the journals really documented some of these turning points in my life. And, after going through a very, very tough grieving period, where it was anger, it was sadness, it was
Sure.
lonesomeness, it was all the things you go through, I finally realized, probably maybe being at my most rock bottom, that I was in emotional and just physical pain. I was literally, I remember being in my
Course.
kitchen, bent over my kitchen table in
Oh,
pain.
so sorry.
And something occurred to me, though, in that moment where I just knew there had to be a better way for me to be able to handle this. This was
Mm,
just not the way that you handle something like this. I mean,
sure.
grieving is part of the process, but there
Right.
had to be
Oh,
more of a pathway. And that's where I began journaling, and or not began, but my journaling took a turn at that point, and I began to realize that rather than just focusing on myself and my feelings
mhm.
and my sorrow and poor me, my journaling began to focus a little bit more on this is my son's journey too. This is my son's
Uh,
journey. He was 23 years old. I
mm,
love and supported him throughout his life. Why would I not continue to love and support him on his ongoing journey? I don't know where you
Yes.
go. I don't know anything about what happens, but I believe there's got to be something beyond this human experience. And so I chose to begin to look at this experience more from his side. And that began to really broaden the way I was viewing his death. I
Mhm.
began to view it not as an end, but as a continuing journey where
Mhm.
we could continue to have an ongoing and even a growing relationship. And
Yes.
and we truly have an ongoing and growing relationship all these years later through journaling, through my meditation practices. I feel his presence. Christopher's just part of my life. It's
Mhm.
always been that way since I had this kind of revelation of looking at it from his
Beautiful.
side. And
Yeah.
and Christopher ultimately, I began to realize that not only was he my son, and I felt so grateful for that, that he was my son in this human experience, but he was also my spiritual partner, and
That's
that
what
we
I
could
just got.
actually help each
Yeah.
other along this path.
I
So,
almost thought you were brothers in a former time. Like your souls are so connected.
yeah, I've
Yeah.
thought about that. I played his father this time. Maybe he played my father last time.
Uh-huh.
Who knows? Those are
Yes.
the things that
Yeah.
I don't know. Uh,
Sure.
and I don't get caught up so much, but I know, as you're saying, there is
Have
some
that connection.
bond at a very deep level between
Mhm.
us that was probably before and is now and will be after.
No. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I believe that's so beautiful, and I'm so sorry for your loss, but I also am happy for you that you were able to transform and transmute your feelings into this understanding. Because I also do believe that we're always connected. I lost a sister when I was a child,
Mm.
and I know that she's on the other side, and like I know she's been around, but my parents also experienced this extreme loss, and my father was able to transform it through his faith. My mother always was angry at God. So it shows two different viewpoints of the same situation, that one was able to transform while the other felt very stuck throughout life. And I understand. I just can't imagine the loss. That's takes a lot of courage to do what you did.
Well, it's interesting you say
Yeah.
that because my wonderful, beautiful wife, Allie, who was the cornerstone of the family. And she also was the strength that carried me and our family through this unimaginable experience.
Mm.
But she, for herself, because she was always a mother and a wife first
Oh.
and foremost, and
Mm.
sacrificed herself, and she was always there for us. But I'm
Yeah.
not sure that she ever found a way to reconcile the
I
death
don't.
of Christopher. And she
Yeah.
died, unfortunately,
Oh.
almost 9 years ago.
Oh gosh.
And,
Mm.
while our relationship and, we had a wonderful, 38-year marriage. She was an amazing wife and mother, but I could see the sadness in her where, what
Yes.
I needed to express and I talked to people and I needed to just
Hmm.
be able to have outlets. Allie, my wife, seemed to hold it in. She just didn't
Yeah.
want to talk about it. And unfortunately, she died very young as well.
Yes. And I think a lot of times when we internalize pain and we're not able to process it, it does create such angst in the body and such sadness. I know with my mother, I saw it happen with her, that she just felt like she was in knots. And I
Yeah.
can't imagine, as a mother myself of a son, the thought, just like, I almost want to cry when you're telling your story, because it touches my heart. My son is on his own. He has his family and everything, but it's just, I can't imagine, because I love him so much. So I feel for you. And then to go through it again with your wife, it's very heartbreaking. So what are some of the things that you have learned personally that you can share with people, that you can bring, like, I know probably gratitude and journaling are a big one for you. What are some of the high points of things that you would love other people to know that can help them too? So, maybe a few things that helped you. I know you said journaling, and that's amazing.
Well, yeah, I mean, journaling was an actual, thing that I did that worked for me. I know it's worked for others. Some people it doesn't. Some of the other things I did in general was try to find places where I could have quietness and
Hmm.
silence and solitude. The subtitle of my book is Embracing the Inner Pathway to
Love that.
Healing and Peace.
Okay.
that really describes the most important thing is that I discovered even more than ever that there is an inner pathway. Uh, what I realized is that we can live from the outside in, reacting to
Mhm,
everything that goes on the
mhm.
outside. We have these five senses, and our thoughts and emotions are like another sense. They
Yes.
bring in all
Yeah.
kinds of information, and we can live from the outside in, reacting to all of that.
Mm,
Or we can decide that I'm going to live from the inside out. And
yes.
that's where all the power is
I
because
believe that.
when you live from the inside out, no matter what happens on the outside, the craziness of this world, or somebody's mad at you, or somebody dies, or a relationship, or
Mhm.
whatever ends, you still have the choice within
Yes.
yourself as to how you're going to respond. Now, we are human beings, and when something as traumatic as a child or a spouse dies, there is a grieving process. We are human beings. I'm not saying that we'll choose
Mhm.
immediately, okay, I'm going to act, peaceful and
Mhm.
loving today, the day after
Mhm. You have
someone
to
dies.
grieve.
You've got to go through, it's part of the process. Actually, grief, if looked at the proper way, actually opens a door for you to move through
I think
and to
so.
start walking through, and it's part of the pain of moving forward. It's like
Yes.
anything. If you want to build muscle, you go through a certain amount of pain to get there. Grief is not an ending. Grief is a very
No.
beginning.
It's a
And
teaching tool.
yeah, and acceptance that the universe doesn't make mistakes.
That's
That
right.
was ultimately what I had to realize is, as mad as I might be at the universe,
Reason.
universe has been here for billions of years. It's been unfolding. Life just unfolds. It unfolds perfectly, whether we believe it or not. We have
Absolutely.
our own opinions and judgments, but life has been unfolding for billions of years, long before we
Mhm.
got
With or
here.
without us, it's there.
Yeah, and so why all of a sudden should life ask me my opinion about how it should unfold?
Yeah.
Or if I disagree with life because, well, you took my son out at 23, that makes no sense. Well, that's the way life was designed because that's
Right.
what happened.
And
And
that's a soul choice too. I believe it's a soul choice. So my understanding, and this is from years of channeling angels and working in the spiritual realm, is that your soul actually chooses exit points. And like with me, I channeled at my sister who died at 14. I'm the youngest, so she would have been a lot older than me. She chose a short time to refine her soul before going on. And I know it's true because she showed up in my room when a few days before my father passed. She told me she's going to bring him home. So like I've had these weird experiences, so I kind of know like internally what it is, and I have a
yes.
very strong belief that everything does happen for a reason, even though it seems so crazy and it's not nothing we would have chosen. Things do happen for a reason, and our soul does choose.
They
So.
really do, and I enjoy astronomy, science, and
Mhm.
physics, and quantum
Me too.
physics,
Yeah, quantum
and then
physics. Yep.
as I read it and I see what is being discovered, and look back, and if in fact there was a Big Bang 14 billion years ago, and life has been unfolding since then, and here we are, we just showed up as human beings in the last
He
maybe
died.
200,000 years.
Yeah.
But life has been unfolding for all these years. And like I said, it never needed my agreement or judgment or
Yeah.
opinion.
It
Why
is.
all of a sudden, because I'm here for 100 years, should it be asking me whether I agree? And
That's
I will say, I don't know that I'll ever totally agree that my son should have been taken at 23
I
or
don't think
died at
anyone would
23.
agree, right? Yeah.
But I accept. You have to accept
That's
that
it.
life knows what it's doing. It's been doing it for a long time. I can resist life. I can push back, but that's what's going to cause, and all kinds of issues for me, whether it's
Yes.
anger,
Resistance.
frustration, and
Yes.
who knows what else it can do when we push against
Yes.
life. But when we accept and allow life to flow, and we realize, as you're saying,
Hmm.
that Christopher was here for 23 years. Firstly, I'm so grateful that I had him for
Sure.
23 years. Uh, I didn't have to have a son, but I had a son and I had him for 23 years. And now I've got a spiritual partner for the rest of my life.
That's
How
beautiful.
fortunate am I? And
Yeah.
I just had to reframe it to look at it that way, as opposed to, what could have been. I could have been a
Yes.
grandfather. I could have this. I could have that.
Yes.
I
Yes.
began to look at it as what can be in our relationship, and made it something where we can continue to have this growing and ongoing relationship in a very different way. I mean, I wish I could sit across
Mhm.
the chair from him and hug him and have a cup of coffee with him, but in a different language, I'm able to still have a relationship with him, and I just feel very fortunate for that. And,
I
and
love
so,
that. Yeah,
yeah,
and I think it's a sense of surrender, like you were saying, allowing. It's really coming into a sense of surrender for whatever difficulties we go through life. If we fight it, it's almost like you're always going uphill, like a fish going uphill in the river. And the struggle is there, but I think when we surrender, we ride the current of what could be instead of what should have been or what we want. So it's kind of like releasing our own will to like divine will and accepting things happen for reasons. Even though we don't see them, I'm making a list for God when I go over. I want to know certain things that I'm not allowed to know now. And like I'm making my list, because I
it's
think,
so true.
all of us have the same questions like, what's the meaning of life? Why are we here? Why do these things happen to us? And I really do believe that we're all on their own private journey, and sometimes we're traveling with our soul families, other people we loved, other souls we want to help, and we never know
Yes,
what the outcome's going to be. It's kind of unfolding for us.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Name the name of your book again, Stephen. I want to make sure that people hear it again. What's the name of the book that you wrote that is a good book for people
Yeah.
to help?
The name of the book is Grief to Gratitude.
Grief. Love
Grief
that.
to Gratitude, and by Stephen Ferrara. The subheading is Embracing the Inner Pathway to Healing and Peace, but the
Yeah.
title of the book is Grief to Gratitude. It's on Amazon, and
Okay.
if you just look it up, and it's
That's
available.
beautiful.
But
Beautiful.
yeah, and it really is a journey, that what I found as I continue to move forward is finding gratitude. And, I think people have a misunderstanding of gratitude.
Mhm.
People are grateful that they have their food on their table, or that it's a sunny day outside, or that my child is doing well. And that's all wonderful. And it's so wonderful to have gratitude for that. But life is life, and life comes in
Mhm.
every way. It comes in all of the beautiful ways, and it comes in all of the challenging ways.
That's for
And
sure.
real gratitude is also having gratitude for the challenges that we have in our
Absolutely.
life.
That's what you
And
grow.
actually, I think a lot of us do find out over time, as the challenge gets further behind us, that maybe that was the thing that taught us the most. The most. I mean,
Absolutely.
if we have an
That's
open
for sure.
mind, challenges are actually ways of accelerating our growth,
Opportunities. Yeah, I believe they're
opportunities.
opportunities. And it's like when things get really messed up, I always look at, all right, what's the lesson for me? What am I learning in my soul and my spirit? How can I take this and transform it, transmute it into something that I can help myself and other people with? And I've
Mhm.
always kind of done that, and it's really, really helped me because I've been through a lot of different things. I'm like, well, how can I take this opportunity and learn from it? And that's really where you can change, because if you don't do that, you do get stuck in the mire and you can't shift when you're stuck. So
Right.
it's all about learning, and I believe that's why our souls are born here. We come here with lessons to learn and transmute, and if we don't learn them, we stay stuck. And if you do learn them, your soul enlightens more. And I think that's the journey that all of us are on, whether we know it or not. We're all kind of in this mire of people that are all going on different soul journeys, so to speak. And I really have a strong belief in that.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I've been fortunate to study under some of the great spiritual masters. In fact, I don't know if you know the name Michael Singer. He wrote The Untethered
Yeah,
Soul and a number of
that's one
other
of my
books.
favorite books. I have that book, The Untethered Soul's awesome book. Yes.
It really is, and Michael and I have become good friends. I
Oh,
live 15 minutes from him,
oh, tell him I love
and
his book.
I will. I will. And he is an amazing, I mean, he is a spiritual master. There's no question about it. I get
Yes,
to see him 3 or 4 times a week. And you know,
beautiful.
they he just helps you see life in a
In a
way
free
where
way.
you realize that we are here to continue to awaken to what we truly are. I mean, in our
Mm-hmm.
essence, we are loving beings.
Hmm.
It's just that we got a little bit of crap that that covers that up. You
That's for
know,
sure.
yeah,
But
we
you know
got
that that's like it's like fertilizer to grow flowers, right? It's like
exactly.
there's always fertilizer, but when you plant your seeds and then the fertilizer's there, you can grow beautiful things. But you have to know that it's not just the fertilizer.
Exactly. And it's
Yeah.
and so as we begin to move through some of these blockages and release them, we just get closer to what we truly are because we are truly
Yes.
these loving beings.
Yeah.
But as part of being part of the human race over all of the eons of time, so much has been picked up that we've just
Hmm.
inherited our own personal experiences
That's
and our own
true.
life that we've picked up. So there's just a
Hmm.
lot of layers that, as we go through life and we do come across these challenges, whether they're big or small,
Hmm.
challenges can be, when you're in traffic and you're all frustrated, the little
Absolutely.
old lady in front of you going 20 miles an hour.
Always a reason.
Yeah, I mean, if you just reframe that, like that could be my grandmother. How'd I feel if I was
Yes.
following my
And
grandmother?
even it slows you down enough because God forbid there might be an accident right ahead of you, and if you rush through, you'll be in it. And that's happened to me
Exactly.
many times, where I was just like protected from what was right ahead of me. And that's why I've just learned to release any kind of angst with traffic. It's for a reason. I'm gonna just go with it.
That's great. I mean
Yeah,
and that's just a basic one, but it's one that we all deal with. I mean, literally, so many people do get frustrated with something like traffic and all the way
yes,
up to the major life challenges. But
yes,
it's a practice and a commitment on a daily basis. As these things come up in us, whatever they might be, we get frustrated with someone, we get annoyed with someone, we love
mhm,
someone, whatever. These are all parts of us that if they don't give us peace, then we need to allow them to be released because
yes,
it's really just energy that's living
yeah,
within us that got stuck
absolutely.
that we've got to let go of.
That's
And that's
right.
what the untethered soul is all about. And
I love
Michael
it.
is
Yeah.
amazing at
Oh, I'd
helping.
love to meet him someday. It was so interesting. I was on a podcast with this young man called Max Potter. He's probably 24 years old. A lovely young man. And he's a very spiritual seeking kind of person. And all of a sudden I said to him, "You've got to read The Untethered Soul." And he goes, "Oh my God, that's the third time I heard of that book this week." He says, "I got to go read it now." So I said, "Yeah, it's one of my favorite books. I read it and it's just an amazing piece of information and just it
Yeah,
hits my soul." So, it's funny that you brought it up because I was just thinking of this young man and I just, wrote back to him today. But yeah, he had picked up the book right after because he had heard it 3 times. And, that's a universe sign. When you hear something again and
absolutely.
again, it's something you have to look into. So I
Yeah.
thought that was pretty cool.
Well, just for you and whoever to know, I mean, Michael is available. He speaks 3 times a week, and he's right outside of Gainesville in a town called Alachua, and
Okay.
it's free access. Anybody shows up, and he speaks Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and every time we're there on a Sunday, people are literally there from around the world that fly in to
That
see him.
amazing.
And
What town is
yeah,
that again? Tell me the town again.
it's Alachua. It's right outside of Gainesville.
Okay.
Uh, Next town over from Gainesville. He calls it the Temple of the Universe.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, it's pretty funny because it's a big name, but it's not a big, it holds maybe 80 people and people just sit on the floor and
Oh,
but it's packed every Sunday, Monday,
isn't
Thursday,
that
and people come
something?
from everywhere. And it's completely free. You just show up and you're
Amazing.
part of it. It's great.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh,
So
you also mentioned meditation. I think you mentioned transcendental meditation
yeah,
at TM,
yeah.
right? So you said you started that when you were younger. Was that through because your father did that? You were mentioning that your father was a seeker.
Yeah, no, I found TM, being a child of the 60s, it was being introduced and I
Mm-hmm.
was trying it all. And so I took TM and took to it. And meditation's been a part of my life, since I'm 17.
Yeah,
Uh, and I think, there's all forms of meditation. TM
there is.
is not the easiest because you have a
Yeah,
mantra and
right.
people find it difficult to really stay focused on a
Stay focused.
mantra.
Yes.
Sometimes guided meditation, there's so many of them that you can listen
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
is a little bit easier. There's breathing meditation. But,
Yes.
I just feel so strongly that with this overstimulated world that we live in. We have too many devices, we have too much
Yes,
news, we have too
we get
much of
distracted.
just chattering going on,
Hmm.
and it's all on our head. And that's just one of the biggest
Yeah,
reasons why people can't sleep at night. They just can't
right.
control this
It's like
constant
the monkey
thinking.
runs. Yeah, the monkey
And
running in
and
there.
all that is it's the thinking based mind. It's like it just likes to think. I mean, it's
Ego
like
mind. Yeah.
digestion. Digestion likes to digest. If you
Yes.
feed it, it's going to keep digesting. And if you keep stimulating the mind, it's going to keep thinking. And what I found for me is if I can cool my jets, if I can just turn the
Hmm.
volume down on the thinking, thinking's not going to stop. At least that's been my
Oh,
experience. But what I can do is
control
observe it. I can create a little
it.
bit of a space where, I see it all passing by. Rather than being it, I'm
Right.
watching
Like
it.
a parade going by. I'm
Yeah.
observing, I'm not walking along with the parade. I think one of my favorite sayings is don't believe everything you think. And
That's a
when
good
you
one.
think something, you challenge it. Like, is it true? Why am I obsessing over that thought? Can I let this go? And I think part of it is we have to question our ego mind because we have to step away from ego mind to be into the divine mind, which I believe is our intuition. So that's
Right.
probably why I started channeling because I had a hard time sitting still. So I do a walking meditation, and then eventually I started channeling because the divine was just like popping in and giving me information. So I started doing that
Beautiful.
years ago, and that's been that's been an amazing journey too, knowing that, we are guided, we're always guided and helped, even though we don't know it. So that's been a
We
beautiful thing.
absolutely are. And we just
Yeah.
have to quiet the thinking mind. We think that thinking is such, and it is an important aspect, but it's almost like the elementary part of mind.
Yes, it's a
Mind is so,
computer. It's
yeah,
it's a
it's the
processor.
analytical side. It weighs and measures, it does all that stuff, and that's great, and we need it, but it's a tool. It's no
Hmm.
different than, in fact,
Calculator.
in Buddhism, they say that your thinking mind is a sixth sense, and it really makes more sense in that,
Yeah.
when you look at something with your eye, you see a tree. You don't take ownership of that tree. You look at, oh,
Just
that's a
say it.
beautiful tree. But for some reason, when a thought comes in our head, we take
Yeah.
ownership of it like it's mine.
Yes.
And
That's
that's not true. It's just a
no,
thought that's passing through.
that's right. It's a
And so
thought.
if we look at the thinking mind as a sense, and it's just a sensor bringing in a thought or an emotion, and it's not us, we can then create a little space in that we realize that's not who we are. We're something far
Not
greater than
we
thought
are.
and emotion. And
Yeah.
that's where you start to get into those higher
Higher
mind
mind.
areas.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know the higher mind connects with divine realm. So a lot of times, we consider ourselves a small little piece, but that's not it. That's the processor. And when we're tapping into higher mind, we're getting a flow of information that's a higher vibration energy that can
right.
feed you and tell you things that you'd never think of. Like I've channeled things, I'm like, I'm not that smart, so I know it's coming from out there. And then then you can use your analytical mind to look something up and learn further. But that's not where my intelligence lies in the intuition and in the guidance. That's where I feel that intelligence really lies. The other
Yeah.
stuff is just nuts and bolts and what we do with how we're hardwired, I guess. But yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
that's exactly what I mean by the inner pathway.
Hmm.
The inner pathway is one of being opened and allowing yourself to be guided. You
Yeah.
allowing life to live us, so to speak, as
Yeah.
opposed to us living life. You
That's
allow
it.
life to flow, and you have the faith, if not the belief, if not the knowledge, that
Hmm.
life will guide me. You
Life
know,
flight, yes.
Life will provide and life will guide me. Now, you can't sit in the corner and, well, maybe you
You
can. I
have
mean,
to take
monks,
action, but
yeah,
you
yeah,
have to follow guidance once you take that action. Like I'll ask my body and my higher self, is this the right action? And I will know. Like internally, my compass will tell me a yes or a no. And then that's the step I follow. And I do that with every decision I make. It's like, is this the right thing? What does it feel like? Am I guided? And I don't have to make that 99 list with all the dots of what I'm doing next. I go to the answer and I work into what I need next.
I
And
mean,
I've
that's so
always done that.
beautiful. I mean, Rosemary, and if you can help your audience, as I'm sure you do with that one concept, it's so critically important because we don't realize how we are being programmed. We're actually being hypnotized when we watch
Hmm.
TV, and
Absolutely.
all these commercials come on. I can't even
Yes.
listen to them. They give me a headache about
Yeah.
these prescriptions and
What you
those
need.
drugs,
Yes. I'm not
and
on
it
anything, so we're
and
good.
and we're being programmed
Yeah.
always.
Yeah.
People are, without knowing, we're being programmed to do things and not go to the inner pathway. That's the
Goes
outer
to the
pathway.
subconscious. All this junk goes to the subconscious mind and it drives us like, oh, maybe I need that medicine. Maybe I need this. And I think even when people are ill, one of the things I do if I'm not feeling well, I never say, I'm suffering, I'm feeling terrible. I go, each day I feel better and better. Like even if I
Absolutely.
don't, because I want that subconscious programming to get under there so my body will start to respond. So I
Terrific.
always have done that, like underthinking, like what is it that my body, how can my intuition lead me, and how can my
Exactly.
divine lead me forward? And I've always done that, and it's really helped me. Not that I haven't made a ton of mistakes, but
We all
it
do.
is what it is. That's how you learn, right?
And that's taking back your power.
Yeah.
People don't realize that when they allow themselves to be a victim
Oh yeah.
of commercials or a victim of somebody
Mm-hmm.
else's opinion or a victim of even what a doctor may tell them to do or not do,
Mm-hmm.
we have the ability to, listen to what we feel is right within ourselves. And I'm not saying to discount
Sure.
what a
Yeah.
doctor says or whatever, but
Well, you
do
listen.
it because you know it's the right thing for you,
That's right.
and then take responsibility for that choice and move ahead wholeheartedly with that choice.
That's right.
And that's where we take back our power. Victimhood is giving away
Absolutely.
all of our power.
I always say leap and the net will appear. You know, it's
That's a
like
good
that's an
one.
old, I've heard that one before, but that's how I kind of live my life. If my intuition and guidance is telling me to make a decision, even if it sounds absolutely crazy to everybody else, and my gut's telling me it's right, then I know it's going to be right. And I think a
Absolutely.
lot of people will, again, they're very outer directed. They're going to ask 99 people what to do instead of tapping into what their wisdom is telling them. And that's where your intuition lies, and that's where the best choice for us lies. It's internally. And so I totally agree with what, your idea and your focus.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very important. And, some people will say, well, then, I'm being, like they're being driven by fear. And, that's a superficial part.
Hmm.
You've got to allow yourself to get a little bit deeper than that. And there is a feeling of guidance, that gut feeling of knowing what to
Yes.
do. But,
Yes.
fear is the first thing, and it's the first thing to show up, and it's the loudest thing to show
It's
up.
loud.
And
Yeah.
you gotta just, say, okay, thank you, fear. I appreciate your opinion.
Yeah.
Now you can move
Internally.
through. Let me see what else is there.
Right, exactly. And I think too, like, you're right. I will internalize fear as a screaming, yelling child that wants your attention. And you just tell it, calm down. And then you go to where the real wisdom lies, and that's the intuition and your inner guidance. And you say, challenge the fear. Because a lot of things we're afraid of is just the unknown. And if you go through life fearing everything you don't know, you'll never do anything because
Right.
everything could be scary. I'm like, no, I'm not going to go there. So it's always about moving forward, and I think and just embracing what you don't know and learn from it. So I think
Absolutely.
that's the most kind way to treat ourselves.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
the last thing I'll say, because it's
yeah,
one of the first things that
yes,
I continue to remind myself, I knew this from all of my spiritual teachings, is that life is not here to torture us, but life is here to teach us.
teach
And no
us.
matter
Yep.
what your suffering is, no matter how tough of a challenge you're going through, life
Hmm.
is not here to beat us up.
Nope.
I know that for a fact. I mean, it would
Yes.
make no sense that, all of this
Yeah.
has
Yeah.
occurred for us to be tortured.
Exactly.
It makes no
Exactly.
sense. So life must be here to teach us. And the way we learn is life experiences. That's
That's
the only
true.
way to learn. Life
That's
doesn't teach
absolutely
us
true.
necessarily through reading a book. Life teaches
Yes.
us through experience. And
Absolutely.
many times the challenging experiences, which we might put in the category of suffering, those are the experiences that can help us even leap forward more. So,
Yes, I completely agree. Yeah,
yeah,
we're so much in line with that, and I totally believe that.
yes.
I love that you're my guest today. Is there any last things that you want to share or how people can reach you? I think you have a website here on your
Yeah,
page.
my website is very simple. It's my name, Stephen Ferrara.
Mm-hmm.
It's Stephen with a V, and then Ferrara is Ferrara.com.
Beautiful. Wonderful.
StephenFerrara.com.
.com.
Very
Okay.
simple. And from there, you can get on Facebook, Instagram, Substack,
Beautiful.
Amazon. There's interviews. There's all kinds of stuff on that.
Beautiful.
And I'd really, hope that, what I said today can be helpful. And certainly the
Absolutely.
website will give even more information.
I love that. Thank you so much for being my guest. This is a Lightwalker's Path. You can also look up workshop sessions and books at rosemaryd.com. Contact Stephen for his wonderful information. Contact me. You've been such a joy and a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.